Rug Delver mirror. I mean, it was very, like, a ton of decisions. I felt like I would have messed it up at some point. I mean, but Drew and Kenny both played, you know, very, very well. Like, Drew is, like, chastising, like, they've had so many decisions to make, and then Drew's chastising himself for the decision to Thought Scour himself over his opponent, because Kenny actually had to submerge in response. So he's like, Thought Scour myself, main phase, and Kenny was, like, submerged.
Yep, it allowed him to put on top.
Yep.
So it looks like Drew is representing the Alliance today on the right-hand side of your screen.
I did not notice that earlier. Did you see the gentleman yesterday playing Mono Green Poison with new Phyrexia symbol sleeves?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're fantastic sleeves.
When in doubt, telegraph.
Yeah.
And so Drew looking at his opening hand. Anthony looking over.
Be interested to see who's on the play, but we're okay.
So
Anthony's on the play.
Yep. Anthony leads off with a Wooded Foothills, signed by Rob Alexander.
Yeah.
And that's gonna hit the bin, and we will see likely.
Well, it'll probably get a Tropical Island or a Taiga, some way to make green mana.
It's got to be a Tropical Island off of this one.
And then does not have a Taiga. He does, however, have a breeding pool.
All right.
I've actually heard about that. There's if somebody knows your deck list, and often if this was a Tropical Island, he'd be prone to the Wasteland plus Surgical Extraction play.
That's rough.
And I doubt it's, given that his Tropical Island is black bordered, I doubt it's a card access issue.
And so Drew leads off with a Scalding Tarn into a Volcanic Island and a Delver.
We've seen a little bit of Delver this weekend.
That card is quite good. Another black bordered duel from Anthony. Volcanic says time for Delver to leave. Lightning Bolt. And that Nimble Mongoose gets in for one.
Yeah, I would be shocked
and
if
a Delver
Anthony
of his own
could not find a fourth Tropical Island. Given
the foil Delver comes down.
Yeah. Pyroblast,
and Pyroblast
is
from
Drew's
Drew.
response.
Misty Rainforest hits the bin. Drew's gonna ponder after he goes and gets a Tropical Island. And so we've got a little bit of shuffling here. This is starting off to be an answer-filled.
It usually is.
game.
There's usually there are more lands in this Rug Delver mirror than I'm used to seeing in the Rug Delver mirrors. Usually, when Kenny Castor and Drew Levin played, they're on like turn 4 with 0 permanents in play. One thing that's very important in the Rug mirror is the sequencing of your spells. You want to cast your first spell, your better spell first, in a lot of cases. If he would cast another 1 mana spell, it would be prone to getting dazed here.
Yep.
So he wants to lead with his Brainstorm that he absolutely wants to resolve. A lot of times you like play your Wasteland, cast your spell, then Wasteland.
Yep.
To play around
Making
daze
sure
and
to
then
protect yourself.
And then at some point, Spell Pierce factors into the equation as well.
Nimble Mongoose in for another point.
There are 4 cards in the graveyard, and make that 5.
Polluted Delta heads away. That's gonna have to pull probably another.
It pulled a Tropical Island. Yep. In fact, Anthony just reached to the top of his deck and put a Tropical because I knew it was there from Brainstorm.
From Brainstorm, yep. And Drew left his cards on top from Ponder, so he knows what he's getting here.
Yeah. He's getting a Brainstorm. The Brainstorm drew him into Tropical Brainstorm Delver. So one of the lines that is available to Drew is put an instant sorcery back on top and play a Delver and it'll automatically flip. The other option is trying to do something to beat those Nimble Mongoose.
Now here's the Delver.
If I were Drew, I would, assuming the Nimble Mongoose do not get Threshold, I would absolutely want to trade a Delver for a Mongoose here.
Now, if you were Anthony, you had a Daze. Drew's got a fetch land there, and you pretty much know that he's set up the Delver to flip. Is it worth using the Daze there just to make it a chance as opposed to apparently not with a Fork Bolt in hand, but
that's a good question, and it depends on a bunch of different factors.
Like, do you have a Fork Bolt?
Yeah, do you have a way to easily kill the Delver? Also, the number of lands that Drew has factors into it. If Drew had only one other land, then you could probably find something to Daze like as an actual counter spell. But now that we're going up to 3 lands, and everything in the Rug deck except for Tarmogoyf costs 1 mana, or is free. So we're getting to the point where these lands are becoming dead draws for both players. And another Delver for Drew.
A fetch for Anthony, however, enables Threshold.
A spell that goes to the graveyard. Well, maybe not. We spoke too soon. Unfortunately, I guess Drew can get one of his own.
Yep, Scavenging Ooze from Drew gains him a life, gets a counter, and can now block those Nimble Mongoose.
One of the new format dominating cards.
That card is surprisingly good.
That's I think that's an aggressive play by Drew. Not only with 4 lands, casting Delver into a potential Daze, but not leaving a mana open to make the Scavenging Ooze bigger. A Lightning Bolt will...
Another Forked Bolt from Anthony, and that's an interesting choice because that Forked Bolt could have taken down the Scavenging Ooze.
No, the Scavenging Ooze is a 3/3.
Oh.
There is a +1 counter. However, that Forked Bolt could have been a Chain Lightning.
Yes.
Whenever I play Rogue, I will play with Chain Lightning. I feel there's too many, like, it deals an extra damage.
Submerge on the Ooze.
And that enables Threshold for Anthony.
Threshold, and that puts Drew in a bad place.
And it's a Breeding Pool.
All right. Breeding Pool from Anthony. Add insult to injury.
That is just a sight to behold. 3 black border duels.
Yeah, all his lands are black border.
Pool.
And now Drew,
he's
got plenty of Delvers in his own graveyard to get rid of. There's a Wasteland, which will get rid of one of the Trops. I would expect that in response we'll make...
Is Anthony hellbent? Does he have any... Okay, so he wants to shrink the Nimble Mongoose, so that and so there's no longer a Threshold. Because he cannot afford to take a hit.
Yep.
Life from the Loam, that's often a dagger. And if he has time to go along with the Life from the Loam and the Scavenging Ooze, that's how Drew is going to win this game, if he does. So Anthony is going to have to find something to punch through, basically. Anthony's best route would be some sort of cantrip.
Another Wasteland. It's not going to do much.
Not good against the Life from the Loam.
With Drew being able to get back. And we're well outside the point where either deck is hurting on mana.
In fact, these mirrors often there's 2 stages. There's a Mana Screw stage where both of them are trying to Wasteland and sometimes stifle each other out of the game. Although Stifle is not in this match. Neither player is playing Stifle, but I mean some Rug players do. But Stifle and Wasteland.
And so Drew removes one of his own to get a counter, one of his own Delvers to get a counter. And after removing one of Anthony's Wastelands.
Looks like he has 2 more Delvers. So 2 more creatures to remove.
Yep, and to pick up that extra point of life in the counters.
However, Drew knows what's going on, and he is attempting to dredge Life from the Loam. Maybe partially an attempt to get more creatures in the graveyard.
Yep, more targets for that Scavenging Ooze. He's got to keep Anthony's graveyard down, but it shouldn't be that hard right now.
Yeah, he has more green mana
starts
than
drawing additional cards.
Yeah, it starts chaining ponders and whatnot.
He's gonna cast Life from the Loam. Play a land.
No, that land's important for him.
I think Drew's getting a little bit aggressive here, and it may pay off. But if Anthony draws
he's got a
Brainstorm into
a Submerge or something like that.
Yeah, or just into another card that he can get into his graveyard.
Oh wow!
Or a Lightning Bolt.
Yep.
That's really bad for Drew.
Yeah. I think Drew needed to lean on his Scavenging Ooze.
Unclear where we are.
One thing about dredging the loam here is he knows he put 2 lands back on top.
Yeah.
So he can either draw a Life from the Loam or a land and have the same dilemma next turn.
So Mongoose from Drew, and he's well into Threshold.
Yeah.
Another Mongoose. And okay, that kind of stalls it back out, but it doesn't put him back on top.
And Anthony no longer has Threshold. He has 6 cards right now. So he needs to get to the magical 7 to make his...
But Drew doesn't have any control over his graveyard anymore.
Correct.
Which means
so one more card that Anthony can play.
Yeah.
Another
Mongoose.
It was probably another like Volcanic Island type card.
And he can only afford to send one of those because he has to keep the other 2 back. Life from the Loam's going to get back a couple more. I don't think we've seen Wastelands yet from Drew. Volcanic Island hits the board.
I would have liked for Drew to take out 1 color. In this case, it would have been red mana.
Drew doesn't have a Wasteland to get back right now, I don't think.
He has 1 in his hand.
Does he? Oh.
He drew a Ponder. It's pretty solid for Drew. He can use it as Impulse Ponder, which is what happens when you have a fetch land to go with it, or any shuffle effect.
Yep.
You can take as many cards as you can draw as many of them as you want, and then once you're done drawing the cards you want to actually draw, shuffle it away. And usually for me, it's like 1 card I want.
He can also use the Life from the Loam to get rid of them.
Yes.
Looked like that was a whole lot of good.
There's almost assuredly 2 lands on top of Drew's deck right now. And Drew is, flush with cards. He's got to find a way to translate them into a victory.
Actual on-board advantage.
Right. Passes. I'd still really like to see Drew use one of his Wastelands, or maybe his only Wasteland, on the Volcanic Island, just to start up like Pyroblast, Lightning Bolt.
There's no reason to leave Anthony with those options.
And there's not a ton of cost for Drew here either. Like, he has plenty of
land.
Yeah.
Mana's not a constricting factor for him right now. Tarmogoyf from Drew. Spell Snare.
And I don't think that's it. Drew will have the ability to fight over a Spell Snare with 3 open mana post-board. And then we got
Delver from Anthony. And that threatens the ability to go over the top.
Mm-hmm. And with Drew on 6, that's a real thing. I'm pretty sure that Drew has some sort of answer. He is very relaxed, and he has a ton of cards.
There's the wasteland on the volcanic island,
Mm-hmm.
which solidifies threshold at this point for Anthony. Passes back over. Let's see what we've got. Nothing.
The Twitterverse is telling us that using a wasteland prior to the spell snare would give Anthony threshold. Anthony did not have threshold before that point.
Yep.
Even then, I think you kind of have to concede threshold. And just
you almost have to expect that Anthony has something in his hand to get it.
Yeah.
Now, he's acting much differently now, and he's getting aggressive. You've got to trade out.
Well, the thing about trading is that there's still going to be 3 damage coming through from Anthony.
And that makes the Delver lethal if it flips.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be able to take down the Tarmogoyf and one of the Mongoose.
Right, at the cost of 2 of his.
Yep. And so Mongoose versus Mongoose.
And Delver.
But Anthony has the trump right now if he can flip that Delver. Now, I think he should have swung with the Delver.
Oh, that's an interesting
because
play,
you can't just let 2 Mongoose through.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to, you could have traded 2. You could have eaten the Delver, taken the Tarmogoyf, and
traded off the 2
traded off the
that's
2,
a really good
2
spot
Mongoose. But
for
that
Anthony
seems okay too, because the only thing that Drew can draw that fights Tarmogoyf is Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, and so much.
There's another Mongoose from Anthony. Checking for the Delver, gets the flip, and that's a great draw. And that will, unsurprisingly and quickly, take down Anthony's Delver and pass back over.
Drew has to dodge, submerges.
Well,
speak of the devil.
Good call.
That might do it. Yep, looks like
Drew
Drew's
is
in. Man, did I really just lose this game? I'm up 800 cards.
Yep, and there we go. Anthony gets through.
Anthony Morris takes on Drew Levin, 2 games to 1. Anthony goes to what I presume is 6-1.